Opposition leader Peter Dutton has revealed his front bench with 10 women in the cabinet of 24. Mr Dutton confirmed Susan Lee, who was appointed as the Liberal deputy leader last week, would also be the opposition spokeswoman for skills and industry. Susan Lee joins me now live. Thank you for your time this morning. So 10 women in cabinet. What message does the party hope to send through these appointments?
That we're continuing to listen to the issues that matter to Australian women, and that our shadow cabinet reflects the diversity of the community. But individually, these women and also the men, in fact, the entire makeup of the shadow cabinet is very strong. It's very committed. It matches experience with emerging talent, and we can't wait to get started, to get out of this sort of post-election pause onto the road and speaking directly with communities, with individuals, and hearing about the issues that matter to everyday Australians and reminding them, reassuring them that we are here to represent their aspirations for their families and their futures.
Has the party alienated women over the last few years?
We have lost votes from women, and I've been very upfront in acknowledging that, but also in recognising that there were a range of issues behind why women did not choose to vote for us at the last election. And it's important to understand them not as a whole, but to break it down. Part of the review that Jane Hume is doing, Senator Hume is doing about the last election, will look at that. Part of the conversations that we will all have as women, and it's not just the women in the shadow cabinet, but all of the amazing women in our parties and in our party organisations, the conversations we will have that will, really talk one-on-one to women. And as I said, number one, reassure them that we're there for them, but also be honest, have honest conversations and listen to what they're telling us.
So is that enough to win back the women vote, do you think, that was ignored by Scott Morrison?
Well, Danica, you're talking about the women's vote as if it's just one vote. It isn't necessarily. But as I said, it's important to have honest conversations, to acknowledge where we may not have represented women's issues strongly, and to present our shadow cabinet and a new agenda as we develop it going forward. Now, this is a strong group of women that you've just described as numbering 10, but also others in the outer shadow ministry. And we are focusing on women and women's issues. We've got dedicated portfolios for children and youth, for the prevention of family violence, for child protection. And that reiterates that it is about the economic circumstances, of course it is, but it's also about protecting women when they need it and when they're at the most vulnerable.
Let's move on to issues of the day. I want to ask you about Beijing's fighter plane intercept. How should Anthony Albanese respond to this?
Well, we were very strong on China. Sometimes we were criticised for this, but it was an issue that we never took a backward step on, and it's important that we see exactly the same approach from the Prime Minister.
Well, this is a diplomatic incident then. What does this mean for Australia? I mean, clearly relations are still at an all-time high.
It's a provocative action by China, and I come back to our government and our party's strength and determination. And I note the criticisms we got, some of them from the ALP, about that stance. So I will let the geostrategic implications take their course with the current government. It's for them to take the action that they need to, but it needs to be strong and it doesn't need to be taking a backward step.
Anthony Albanese has flown to Indonesia. What do you think this trip will achieve?
This is an important relationship. It's one that the coalition has always placed very high on our list of regional relationships. I did note that Anthony Albanese, was waving goodbye to a serious energy crisis at home. And while I acknowledge it's an important visit to make, I hope his focus stays on what is a developing crisis with an incoming government that seems quite bewildered about what to do and how to do it, both in terms of the complex and volatile international situation that they're pointing to, whereas they criticised us for actually recognising that international situation caused economic headwinds at home. They're now effectively saying, well, what are we going to do about it? And, they're struggling to deal with the energy crisis. So the sooner the Prime Minister gets back and focuses on these real issues for everyday Australians, in some cases who are seeing retail energy prices go up by a multiple of 4. And if you're talking about small manufacturing businesses, my incoming portfolio will focus on the pool of talent we need for our small businesses, on the need for the economic environment to be sensible, to be certain, and for the government and our members of parliament to understand the realities of running a small business and a large business in Australia today.
Susan Lee, we have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.